It's Unders, and today we're going to talk about a little bit of self mastering. Oh, phone went off. Anyway, primarily, why I don't like doing it. I don't like mastering my own stuff. I would much rather send it out to the guys I use, have them send it back, go, yeah, brilliant, I like what you've done, subjective view. The problem is I have spent hours and hours and hours working on this track. I know how it sounds, I know how it moves. I don't hear the things that maybe need correcting or adjusting. And that's where it's really good to get somebody else to do it. But there are exceptions when you, perhaps like I intend to do with this, I'm probably going to put this out as a freebie track if there's enough reason to, if enough people are out there supporting and actually want it. And the other reason is if you're playing the tracks live and things like that and you want to test how they sound while you're still working on them. So there's a couple of things that we can look at doing that you know are going to fix issues that have probably occurred. Now my chain here is quite long. That's just where I've got working back and forth here. First thing I've got going is in an issue fixer. That's all this does. So I use the FabFilter for it. It's set in mid-side mode. And it is rolling off the mids at 20 Hz, so bottom end of the frequency. It's drum and bass. There's a big sub in this, so I want the low frequencies to be there in the middle, but I don't want them to be there on the sides. So I've actually rolled this off at 40 Hz. I've done 40 Hz because that's where it seemed to stop affecting the sound so much. And that just ensures that this frequency down here, it's pretty much just only ever going to be one fundamental of the sub is there on its own, cracking through. Now I've done things in the mix that to ensure that the drums and snare and everything's nice and snappy in the middle. This is just more of a fail-safe. I've also done a similar thing on the top and just rolled it off. I've rolled it off at 22 kilohertz, okay? That is above your range of hearing, but it just takes off anything harsh and horrible that might be on there, and it just, how would I say it? Focuses the mix a little bit. It sort of brings your attention to this is the music here. It focuses that area rather than having too much going on. Almost, it's a strange thing. I'd advise what you do with this sort of thing, do it on your mix, a track that you know, and roll the 20 and the 20 off. So the 20 Hertz and the 20 kilohertz, and just see how it brings a focus to the track. Now after that, we've gone and put a Pultec on because I'm just insane. So the Pultec, it adds a little bit of character. More importantly here, I've boosted the tops. It's like if you've not used the Pultec, go grab a demo. I mean, Waves have got one, IK Multimedia have got one, this is the UAD one. It's, in my opinion, the best for lifting the air up and getting that top end fizz. That's all this is doing here. Just boosting that from 8K up. If we listen to what's going on, bear in mind this song is loud, you might need to turn this down. Let's grab it on the drop. It's quite dull. Okay, so after the Pultec, running in something a little bit different. I picked up Ozone 7 fairly recently. I've got advanced and I'm using it broken away slightly. So I've got a dynamic section going on. Now this is really lightly just taking in different parts of the spectrum. It's set up for this track in particular for the way I've done it. I don't think it's taking more than a dB and a half at any one time from any area, and I've just got the auto gain on. We then go into the imager. So again, this is as correction as well as giving bit of an effect. So these here, these push the stereo field apart. Okay, they do that in some very clever ways. Something really important to look at when you're doing this, if you go into settings, we need to put prevent anti-phase on. So anti-phase stops you getting cancellation when you sum back to mono. Really important for club music, but it's not on by default because, well, Ozone's a multi-purpose tool. It's not just focused at what I do or what some of us do. Now here in the band 2, which is sort of like our kick snare band, yeah, I've actually reduced that, so the snare hit and some of the bass that was going on there was spreading a little bit too far away, so when you did some to mono, it didn't work as well. I'll show you what we mean by that. So what are we, minus 35.4, let's zero that off. So low, mono. Yeah, see how we're losing quite a bit there? And if you look at the polar sample that's going on down here, you can see it goes crazy. So bring it down to 35.4 was where I settled, I think. That just narrowed it in well enough that when we went to mono, it was still how we would expect to hear it. Then I've got an exciter, and in the exciter I've just done this by ear, pushed the tops quite a bit, pushed the upper tops quite a bit, pushed a tiny little bit on the sub, just generating an extra little harmonic or so there, and it's a tape effect. That's just how it sounded really good for me. We can just on and off it. It doesn't make a massive difference, but you can hear it when you're used to the track. Loudness incoming. I think what you'll notice so far is everything's really been corrective. So the Pultec, while characterful, corrects the upper top, the tops. It gives more lift to it. It's a corrective thing. The Pro EQ is a corrective thing, making sure that that very low frequency stays where it needs to. These have been mostly corrective, apart from the exciter, which is adding a little bit more. I want to say excitement, but hey, that's what we're going to go with. If we carry on going through, you'll see that's generally a trend. They're fixing things, but small adjustments over the whole to make it. Now, this here, I've got this set to digital. Now, when you've got Ozone's EQ set to digital, it's a nice linear phase EQ. The analog version is not. So it's best to work with the digital one in the mastering situation. Linear phase being the best way to work in mastering, unless you're working specifically with really low end stuff, and then you can get to things called phase ripple and all sorts of things like that. Not what we're going to focus on now though. What I have done is I've done matching EQ. Now this is an EQ profile that I know works very, very well in clubs. I've been using it for a long time, and then this is how my mix was. As you can see, I got it pretty well on, to be honest. And when I've matched it to 70% with I've matched the smoothing to 70%, so it's a really smooth curve, and I only matched it by 21%. It's only actually just adjusting my EQ curve by maximum of 1 dB. In most places it's a lot less than that, and that's just to adjust the profile ever so slightly, so it sits a little bit more comfortably in that spectrum. But my mix was pretty accurate. As you can see, I boosted the tops and we've taken them out a little bit again, but we've not taken them out in the same kind of fashion that I've put them back in, so it still sounds how I want it to sound. After here, we've got my favorite compressor to use. So that's right, I've got a multi-band compressor going on here, just catching any stray peaks. This then glues everything together. This is the magic compressor. It's based on the SSL bus compressor. There are endless like different versions of this you can get. I think SSL do their own version, Waves do a version, UAD do a version. This is the Native Instruments version made by Softube. I think there's a version from Plugin Alliance as well. Loads of versions of it. go and grab it, try it out. Or the glue compressor in Ableton is based on this as well. We'll just listen to what this is doing. It shouldn't be hitting too hard, but it just gels everything together. It's a bit of a magic one. Yeah, see, it's only compressing by about 2 decibels, but when you take it off, everything becomes a little bit more poking out of the mix and a little sharper. That just brings it all together. It sounds like a track that's all meant to be is one part. I've got that right near the end of the chain as well. Despite all this EQing and things going on, this isn't going to adjust those EQ profiles massively because they're minor amounts I've been doing. Yes, it is going to adjust them, but it is going to help bring everything back together. If I put this on and it didn't sound right and it didn't work, I simply wouldn't have it in there. Or it would be at a different point in the chain, perhaps up one before that corrective EQ curve, the matching EQ we were looking at in Ozone. But it works here, so that's what we're doing it here. After that, I've then got a limiter as well. Now the limiter is there for loudness. It is the multiband limiter, and I chose that because it was doing the job. I usually use the L3 or this the multi maximizer. In this case, this worked. We pulled it down by 5 decibels. I would normally have a LUFS meter in here afterwards, just showing us what's going on. For this sort of drum and bass, we're looking around -8 LUFS, which is loud to say the least. We can just see what this is doing here. Attenuating by quite a few decibels, then stacking to minus 0.3 on the out ceiling, allowing us when we bounce to MP3 to hopefully stop into sample clips. Really loud music, it's still going to get into sample clips at that. Some people go as low as a whole decibel off. This generally works. You need to test it afterwards though, once you've bounced your track out, and make sure you're not getting into sample clipping. Into sample clipping means even though you've got a solid level, it's coming at as a default output, so in this case minus 0.3. When it sums the tracks, there are peaks that are getting cut off. A DAW tries to work those out and it causes a clip. It mainly happens when you go to MP3. If I bounce this out to 24-bit WAV, I'm not going to experience that, but when I bounce out to the MP3, I might. After that, I've got Magic AB. I'm not going to play anything coming from that, but you can see some of the tracks that I've got in there and that I reference with. They're WAVs for the most part, apart from I've got 2 versions of Plastic World here by Pendulum. One is the MP3, one is the WAV, and that's just so I can A-B them and hear the difference because they both sound superb. But the MP3's got like an 18K roll-off, and it's just good to have a reference of that. Time featuring Delilah is Chasing Status, Black and Blue is Chasing Status, Leakage here is Noisier. That's all I was referencing on this one. This is one of my breaks ones that I'll load up. These are the main 2, the Plastic World, so that'll go between. Then we've got Isotope Insight, which was going to be my LUFS meter. I said -8 LUFS. We've got -7.8 LUFS. It's around where we want to be. Yeah, I'm going hard on that track. What can I say? It's a savage track. Again, I don't like doing my own mastering. I'm just showing you this because it's something we do. Arc, if you don't know what that is, it's a room correction thing that's turned off because right now I'm in headphones talking to you guys. My room requires a little bit of correction, so I have Arc set up. In fact, you can see the horrendous lower end profile. There you go. So the orange one is my room and how it profs and dips. The white line is how I've managed to correct it and how I listen to my tracks. I can mix without this. I know this is going to happen. I know this is going to happen, but it's much nicer just mix with Arc on and then reference the headphones. Well, guys, that is my mastering chain for this track, which is High Volume. I don't like doing my own mastering, but it can be done. Here's a little idea of what a mastering chain would look like for this sort of track. If it's been helpful to you guys, pop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, plenty of comments, and I'll release the track for free. Thank you very much, guys. Peace.